Do you think you can succeed in today's environment by doing what you did yesterday, just harder? I think that would be the same as trying to break the iceberg with Titanic. Hi, I'm Frederick. Welcome back. Today, we will be talking about creating a new target operating model for the insurer through 4 steps. I believe it's extremely important to think about how is the future operating model for the insurance company going to look like. There's no doubt that the world has been turned upside down, and we are all thinking about how do we get out of this in the best possible way. One of the things that you have to do is to create a new target operating model. I have 4 fairly simple steps that are, as always, difficult to do, but hopefully easy to understand. Step number 1, that's the overarching design principles that you need to make sure that everything is built by when you are rebuilding your target operating model. The first and foremost is you have to make sure, absolutely certain, that everything you do is done with maximum flexibility and agility in mind. And that goes for the organization's ability to change fast, but it also goes with the people's competences and their ability to move fast with the changes. One of the things that I'll get back to also is thinking about cost flexibility. Most insurers have a fairly large, completely or almost completely fixed cost base. This is rent and employees predominantly. When the markets are going like this and you're having a fixed cost base, then in my world, you have a problem. This is one of the things that you have to consider when designing a new operating model. How can you make your cost base fluctuate with the changes in the market demand? It goes without saying that another design principle is to make sure that everything you do is virtual and digital. I like to separate virtual and digital because I feel that the term virtual refers to how we as human beings are capable of communicating with each other, how we as human beings are capable of getting things done virtually. Tough negotiations, hard employee development talks, and so forth. Digitization is how the systems are enabling us to do so. So when building your target operating model, make sure that everything you do is virtual and digital. These were the design principles. Step number 1. Step number 2 is relook at your value chain. Make sure that when you look at your value chain, you go through the design principles one by one by one, and for each step in your value chain, you look at how can I make this specific element more flexible, more agile. And to me, that involves outsourcing all non-core activities. And what I'm saying here is that I'm actually saying that up to 80% of all activities of an insurance company are non-core activities. And therefore, you can actually consider outsourcing them. Now, why would you do that? If you create an outsourcing model that is flexible enough to allow you to pay per use, then you are capable of having an organization with previously fixed costs now floating along the demand that your insurance company has. Many claims, high costs. No claims, no costs. That's what I'm talking about. When going through the value chain, it's also important that you look at the processes that binds everything together. I'm certain if you haven't done this the last 3 to 5 years, you have 10 to 15% fat that you can cut away in terms of cumbersome processes, in terms of things that are a little more difficult than they have to. So when you digitize your processes, make sure that you also optimize them make them as smooth and efficient as you can. And this leads to element number 3 in creating your new operating model, IT. It's no secret that most insurers, they're still struggling with legacy IT systems. And in a world where everything has to be digital, that can pose a big issue. When you are looking at your legacy systems, when you're looking at your IT and technology architecture, I would suggest you also take a look at Gartner's 2-speed IT. They've coined the term for a great model that illustrates how you can have your core databases, your financial and transactional databases in one place where it's okay that development is cumbersome and takes time, but on top of that, you will be building the nimbler and more agile systems. It's not a quick fix, but it's a good way of dealing with legacy systems and actually being able to deliver new tech innovations to the market fairly fast. Lastly, but not least, is step number 4 in building your target operating model. It is the organization around you. Because none of the things we've discussed so far, the design principles, the walkthrough of the value chain, the understanding of what non-core activities can be outsourced, and the IT model or the systems can be done if the organization does not want to deliver it, if the culture is not ready to do it. And this is by far the most difficult point. This is where the executive management really have to shake up the organization, change the processes, maybe even change the business units. One of the most simple ways of doing that is to change the reward systems. Because if you change how people are being incentivized, then you naturally also will change how they work together and what they're focusing on. So when you're looking at how do you want the organization to be structured in order to deliver on the target operating model that you've designed, then you have to make sure that incentive programs, they follow the new structure. One of the structures that you'll typically find is that instead of looking at silos in the organization, you will go to process ownership with processes going across all the silos. For example, a customer buying experience from quote to claim. This typically involves a lot of business units, which makes it very difficult to change. If you change this to the process and you are giving a process owner the ownership of this process and the authority to change what has to be changed in the business units. Of course, there'll be some initial resistance to doing so, but it'll enable you to create a future way of working that is tailored around your customers and partners and not around your organization as it used to be. It's a profound task to change an insurer's operating model. There are so many moving parts that have to be aligned, that has to work together. Nevertheless, it has to be done. I think we are all in a situation now where we've proven to ourselves that the current model is no longer working to the extent that we want it to. And when you're changing your operating model, you might as well change it to a model that is agile, that is capable of moving with market fluctuations, that is capable of catering to changes in demand from the customers and partners quickly and smartly. I know this is a daunting task, but from where I'm standing, there is no alternative. Thank you very much for listening. As always, I'd love to hear your comments. Stay safe and good luck.